So we've got a fairly basic polyphonic synth now. But obviously it's a bit dull. It's only giving us some sine tones, basically, which is not particularly exciting. So why don't we add some oscillators, other oscillators to that? Well, we can do that fairly easily by using the selector method that we looked at a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of tutorials ago. So we could put in a sawtooth wave, and we could put in a rectangle wave and a triangle wave. So we'll do that. And we'll run all of that through a selector object, as we did before. Oops. With 4 inlets. You notice, by the way, that all the time I'm building this stuff, I'm trying to keep things reasonably neat, and that's because you want to be able to understand your patches when you come back to them. So if you can avoid making them all higgledy-piggledy all the time, that would be good. It's good for your own sort of recollection, if you like, and it's good for me as if I'm marking your assignments. And I will mark you up or down depending on how neat your patches are, and also how well you've labelled them. So do label your patches. So in this patch, for example, I might add a comment box that says voice engine, along with and then perhaps explain what it's got in it. Now in this instance, the patch is fairly simple, but as your patches get more and more complex, the need for commenting on the content increases. So don't neglect it. Anyway, so we've got a means of selecting between 4 different oscillators. This is all stuff we looked at, before, as I say. But this time, instead of using the U menu object here, well, I'll make it here because I can move it. Here, remember, I'm going to put in, where are we? The menu items off, and sine, and sawtooth, and square wave, and triangle. Instead of putting my U menu here, I'm going to put it outside, because the problem is, otherwise I would have to go into the voice, in fact each of these voices, but we'll come back to that in a minute, in order to in order to switch on the voices for a start, and also to decide which sound is going to be played out. So I'm going to use send and receive objects. So I'm going to, I can put in receive, but I can also just put in an R, which is, so S for send and R for receive, and we will, we can put in oscillator there. So I'll put a receive in there, and I will, in the main part of my patch, I will put this along with a send object, and connect that up. And that means that whatever I can choose my oscillator type from the main patch. I don't have to go rootling around in the patcher in order to decide what I want. So it makes it that much more ergonomic. It also saves time and makes it much nicer for your end user. So that's fine, but we only have one voice changed. If I wanted to, because this one remains as it was, as indeed do the other 3, which is not ideal. In fact, it's a bit of a pain in the neck. If I wanted to have all of the voices functioning the same, as it stands at the moment, I'd have to go into each one and change them. that is not what we want. So we will use abstractions. I think I've talked about abstractions before. With a patcher object, it exists within your patch, and as you can see, you would need to change each one individually in order to have them the same. What we will do instead, if I open up the patcher object, I can now save that to the same place as I've saved my original patch. So I shall, as a new voice patch. So that's an independent patch that's independent of the one that I from my host patch. Remember that it has to be in the same folder as your host patch. So if you haven't already saved, I mean, it just so happens that I've already saved this my main patcher or my host patcher to a folder. If you haven't already done that, you need to do that, and then you need to save your what is going to be your abstraction to the same folder so that they can reference each other, or at least so that this main patch can reference your voice patch. So that's what I've done there. I hope that's clear. Again, you need your host patch and your sub patch or your abstraction to be saved in the same folder, and they both need to be saved. So this one would have to have a name before it will be able to reference this. So anyway, once you've done that, I can now just get rid of this P at the beginning, or well, I'm basically making a new object called voice. And so my original patch disappears, and there is my voice. But it is now, I can't edit it directly from inside, from here, because it is no longer part of this main patch. I'll show you in a minute how you can alter it. And that means, of course, that I can change these to the same voice. I can say, well, change them to the same objects, and we now have identical voices. So obviously that's a great deal easier and quicker than having to go in and change them all independently. So now we should, if I turn these on, we get appropriate pitches and sounds, but I can now change the timbre to different ones. So that's useful, and that means also that whenever we change anything in any of these abstractions, they change in all 5 of them. So I will do that.